Normally, Russ, this would be where we would end the standard episode, and we would bring everything to a close with, a final synopsis of everything. But you and I share not only that time as the communication department head, but you were last year's fellow for the Warrant Officer Historical Foundation. And I was fortunate enough to follow you up, and I was nominated this year's fellow. And so, we have a chance for fellow to fellow here for a moment. And I thought it would be really interesting for the audience because we have picked up a pretty substantial following based on your hard work during the first season. Well over 4,000 downloads, multiple cities and countries. People were tuning in to Cohort W Season 1. And I thought it would be neat to take just a deeper look into your efforts for last year on the creation of Cohort W. So first question, fellow to fellow section here. So what initially attracted you to the idea of applying for the inaugural Warrant Officer Historical Foundation Fellowship while serving as a department head at the Career College?
Well, I wasn't under the impression. I didn't know that it was, the inaugural one. I'm not sure I knew that until we started getting into the interview process. But for me, having just finished dissertation and thinking I was going to be separated from the Army, I wanted to do something that I could show whoever I felt would want to hire me that I was still, in the game. I had fight, I had moxie, and that I could do something that, related to the civilian world. And again, multiple different influences there. And so that was part of it. But I knew I wasn't going to have the opportunity for a typical postdoc fellowship. So I decided I would at least go with it and call it my postdoc fellowship. And it certainly was. And now it's yours. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And, I had no idea an opportunity like this fellowship would open up. And, as I had started to hear about it, and then I started to kind of explore and couldn't believe you were the fellow. And I thought, a postdoc fellowship. I need to work on that as well. And like you, I thought, there's just no way I'm going to get your run-of-the-mill fellowship. And I say run-of-the-mill, and that kind of leads into the next question, because most fellowships are pretty lackluster. And by that, I mean they're very standard. We're doing research, or we're doing some sort of paper or something of that nature. And of all the typical boring mediums out there, you where you can conduct a fellowship, you selected a podcast. Why? Well,
the idea, the specific idea, and I can remember this in the conversation, was actually with the Historical Foundation's Board of Directors fellowship manager, John Robinson. He was the one who literally uttered the word to me first and asked me if I could do it. In the application, I had expressed interest, or had expressed some current work that I was doing, communicated some current work that I was doing with StoryCorps and interviewing different types of different groups of people for oral history for just my own work that I wanted to do for 3 different groups of people who were very interesting to me, with my own personal goal of writing a book within 2 or 3 years based off of that. But John saw that and asked me if I could turn that into a podcast, an oral history project for the Historical Foundation. I actually loved the interview portion of my dissertation. I liked doing the StoryCorps stuff that I was doing. And so thinking about this oral history project for the foundation, and I mean, there were multiple masters that I had to serve during this, but John gave me a fair amount of free rein for the people to interview and the topics, and the board agreed to it and supported it. So that sort of that genesis of the medium and the audience selected for the interviews proper, and the topics out there. But it was truly a privilege and honor to meet those incredible 2s and 3s, and even the 1W1 out there. I mean, they were all hand selected by their senior 5s in their field, and just outstanding young leaders. Truly a remarkably diverse, excellent group of people who it's my privilege to know and actually get to meet in person over time here slowly. So it's been a gift that keeps on giving, and I'm so grateful for the chance to know them.
Yeah, there's something wonderful about connecting with the other warrant officers out there, especially the 2s and 3s that are working so hard in their field. And the fact that they've crafted a name for themselves and they're that recognizable by their senior 5s, that's unbelievable. So you definitely dedicated an unbelievable amount of time to the first season. Did you ever think, or did you expect it was going to be that successful? I mean, over 4,000 downloads is incredibly successful.
Well, I thank you for sharing the amount of downloads. I didn't know we had crossed. Oh no, maybe I did. I thought I guess we're coming up on 5,000 fairly soon. But it's hard, when you place it in the whole realm of podcasts that are out there, and think about warrant officers talking about doctrine. It's like, wow, this is going to have a worldwide audience of like tens of people, but that's not true. And again, the success, the amount of people, again, being the qualitative person that I am, those numbers are great. They really are. They mean a lot. But it's the people who are along the way. First and foremost, I think the person outside of the department and the first person not involved in the program, Isaac Van Meter, thank you for being out there and picking up on it. Just a really neat person. And then, other, the ladies of the podcast, Adrienne Denham and Alicia and Courtney, their episodes have resonated a lot. So it's really just surprising hearing, whose episodes get a lot of play, why they get play, and who they speak to. And I think what really the success comes down to me for that matters is that when I get a 420 Charlie applicant or somebody else who just comes to me and says, hey, can you look at my warrant officer application packet? I will push them to listen to 2 or 3 different episodes from different branches to get a sense of what being a warrant officer is in the minds of people that they could become in the next, 5 to 10 years. So I think for me, that success is partly in the numbers, but also in this volume that now you and I are creating, or that mainly that you're creating, of legacy, of ideas that's out there for people to go back and reference, and success will come someday, Leonard, when we are old and gray and somebody is doing this for their dissertation project. So, no, it's wonderful. And I'm glad, I guess, well, yeah, I didn't expect it to be, and I'm glad it is.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I was, and I think you remember, because I called you from a conference. You were asking if I had applied, and I said, yeah, I'd applied. And you're like, great. What are your ideas? And I was like, how am I supposed to follow this up? And I think that, of course, the listeners right now are going, oh, that's how I did it. And so were you surprised that the foundation had opted to continue the podcast for a second season? Because I remember, following you on some of the social media. I remember a post you had made, and it was, good podcasts never die; they just fade away. Or it was a play on who is that? Was it MacArthur's words? So, I mean, were you surprised?
Truly, yes, I was. I'm actually speechless on this. Both that the board said we want to do this, and that you said that you wanted to do this. In my mind, and everybody knows you as a writer, so I'm just floored. And I'll tell on the library staff that I'd gone over there to return a book, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Chief Momeny, he's prolific." So I thought you were gonna, play to your strengths, and rightly so. Rightly so. I guess that's a bad joke, but I thought you were gonna,
certainly.
I thought you were going to go that way. So, but like any good storyline, like any good musical selection, or like any good idea, you let it go and take on a life of its own. And so, fly, Leonard, fly like the aviator you are. And
well, it's and I knew that question would kind of stump you for a bit, because I know exactly how much the experience meant to you. And for the group, when Dr. Houser, when Russ left, I'm not going to lie, the comms department was pretty down, but they sent him off with a phenomenal Cohort W tire cover for your Jeep. And I know that you wore that on the Jeep with quite a bit of pride. And, and when I really started to think about it, my whole reason for getting involved into the fellowship was I wanted to continue what you were doing, which was telling the story in the most effective way, and telling the story of our warrant officers, and preserving and contextualizing that current history for generations to come. Because I, like you, feel very strongly about the cohort. And I always tell people that regardless of anywhere I've gone for the civilian education side, that, the college is my alma mater, and to be out here right behind you, waving the flag for all of them. And so that not only our senior leaders can see that and hear about the wonderful things, but they can come and learn from each other, and they can do that through this incredible medium. So, I wasn't going to give up on that and tremendous foundation and base you had developed. And I certainly hope that the listeners appreciate that, for all of you who have endured for this section of Fellow to Fellow. Now, you've had an opportunity to reflect on the fellowship. What sticks out to you most about the whole experience?
Well, I think what sticks out right now is the people. I don't necessarily miss the actual formal fellowship and the work of it, but I miss, with a small f, the fellowship of the board of directors and the fellowship of the W5s who I reached out to and who I've gotten to meet recently, and those W2s and W3s who I've gotten to work with and interview, and those people on LinkedIn especially who I've gotten to connect with and push the podcast shamelessly, shamelessly too, and get feedback from them, and just that routine interaction. So I think that's probably the world that I live in. Generally, is that social world, and that means a lot to me. And so it was a very special time this past year, and really, it's because of the people. If you're saying anything, I think you're on mute.
Well, we'll have to edit that out.
It might show up in the recording anyway.
It just might, because you know what? That's pretty funny stuff, and I think people appreciate that. So what I had just said on mute is probably not worth our time going back to. So I'm going to finish up with this last question. What is your hope going forward for both Cohort W and the Warrant Officer Historical Foundation Fellowship?
Well, I guess ultimately for both of those, they're kind of tied together. I hope that there are more and more seasons to be had with as much care and nurturing as possible from John Robinson and the team there to keep the good work of the Foundation and ultimately the Warrant Officer Association in the minds of warrant officers, whether retired, serving, or future. So there's number one, but also number two. I'm glad that you picked it up, Leonard. You're an absolutely brilliant and truly creative, wonderful guy, and I hope that whoever follows you in the future is proportionally equally wonderful and creative, and that this thing just keeps going for as long as it can be sustained. There are infinite stories out there and infinite angles to come from, but again, finding that voice, finding that caretaker for this project, for the Warrant Officer Historical Foundation, is what I would like to see become of this. Sort of a self-sustaining project to look at the warrant officer in contemporary historical perspective, and I hope that ultimately whoever these future fellows are, they find the love and joy that I have found, and that I hope that you find too. So thanks for your time today, and I am grateful that I get to share in this a little bit with you as you go along. And I wish you a fabulous and wonderful year. It will go by so fast. Enjoy every minute of it.
Russ, I really appreciate it. You paid me a lot of compliments there, and I just I hope to continue to do your work proud. And it's funny how you went in for the thank you for your time today. That's my line. We've changed seats, my friend, yet again. So I would like to tell all the listeners, thank you for your time today, CW5, Dr. Russell Houser. And, I think what is fantastic about this is, initially, the first part of this episode, it was so great to hear a senior warrant officer not just talk doctrine, but talk about the influence of policy and the various programs that are out there that shape the wonderful Army that we serve in, and just sharing the mentorship that you have and so freely give with those that you always seek to serve. You, sir, are a selfless leader, and I am very grateful to you. And thank you again for sharing that time with all of us and demonstrating leadership in your branch, and how that leadership can ultimately contribute to meet the doctrinal requirements of the Army for both the current and future fight. This has truly been a pleasure.
Cohort W. Cohort